Uh, hello. Hello. Been a while since I streamed. We're gonna start playing the movie in about a minute. Hello Bradley Adams. Hello. Valve, you're not allowed to copyright strike me. I think Valve, generally speaking, is not that litigious, so hopefully it's good. Is my audio level okay? Is my audio okay? Keep in mind that
We're in the game.
the conversation is going to sound something like... It's going to sound something like this. Is this okay? Does everybody hear both things? We'll figure it out. Get some speed going. Hey, Adak. I'm very quiet. I doubt Valve is going to copyright strike you. Also, my volume's low. Yeah. Wait, my volume's low. Oh, I know why my volume's low. It's because of sin. There we go. Okay, my volume should be better now, right? Right. And video audio too low. Maybe you're just too low. Now we cook. Yeah, so what happened was I was recording with Sin. And Sin was like, "Hey man, you need to get up on this thing about changing your microphone volume." And I was like, I don't know about that. Not task manager, damn it. I need control pad. Control panel, I mean. Hardware and sound. Sound. No, not this. Okay, so this is gonna take 20 minutes if I do it right. Is this okay? Is this okay? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me over her?
So I started making these kind of linoleum tiles and the drop ceiling.
Can you hear me over her speaking? Yes, perfect. Okay. That's great. That's just great. Volume too low. Which volume? Which volume is too low? You guys need to also predict what I'm going to ask you 10 seconds ahead so that you can the stream isn't delayed. Vid is a little low. Oh, volume awful. Look, we'll get started. We have captions on. And probably 3 minutes in, we'll have figured out the audio levels. Let's get going. This is the Half-Life 25th anniversary documentary. Valve just dropped this on us. And we're gonna watch it together, like a family. You can listen to my wonderful voice. Thank you. I was actually just really sick in the past few days. You can kind of still hear it. My voice is a bit deeper. But, yeah.
You just go over the mountains over here and you're in high desert. You get past Ellensburg and it's high desert. I spent a lot of time out there getting reference. Most of the reference came from Eastern Washington. I did a drive out to the
Karen Lore, texture
a lot of
artist.
photos, and also a lot of...
Happy birthday to Half-Life. Happy birthday, Half-Life. Mute it! Mute it!
Just reference imagery of just like, hey, this is what desert looks like, and big cliffs and stuff like that.
Chat, what's
That drive
going
was
on
2
here?
days. It was 8 hours down, 8 hours back, and I'm not even sure I spent the night.
Chat. What is this? You don't have any audio? Just okay. So guys, I don't know. I can hear both clearly. Okay. We'll just keep going. I can't chase this forever.
The local reference was out in the Columbia Gorge.
Good morning, and welcome to the Black Mesa Transit System.
This game was created in a very interesting time when I think Gabe Newell. I know Gabe Newell used to work for Microsoft. I think he was one of the original 10 guys or something something crazy like that. And he basically, I think he sold his shares and and he and a bunch of his friends were like, yeah, let's make a video game. And they made Half-Life, and it was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Is provided for the security and convenience of the Black Mesa Research Facility personnel.
25 years ago today. Man, feels like a lifetime. Not a huge fan of Half-Life. Me neither, but there's still a lot of interesting things to talk about. I think Half-Life is kind of like the dumb man's System Shock, and I think Half-Life 2 is the dumb man's System Shock 2. I would even go so far as to say that BioShock is a better title than Half-Life 2. That may be a bit slanderous in some places. But I think that
my name is Mike Harrington.
if
co-founder of
if you're interested in polish and set pieces, Half-Life has a lot of interesting things going for itself. If you're interested in like a good story being told through gameplay, well, yeah, don't be playing Half-Life. Play something else.
I wasn't really used to big companies. When I was at Microsoft, it wasn't that big. It was like 1,500 people, like a big high school. 9 years later.
But it's also you know, a
like
team with a lot of money and a lot of talent, and they're like, yeah, we're just gonna make this thing that we want to make. You know, this is interesting. This is an interesting time for video games.
I told my managers like a year before, like I'm leaving in a year, and I'm going to start a game company. And the first person I talked to was a good friend of mine, Michael Abrash. But at that time, he was trying to do something within Microsoft, and by the time it made sense, John Carmack had convinced him to go.
The System Shock series also happens to be complete. System Shock 3 is going to come out before Half-Life 3.
Because I want to leave. I want to start a game company. Like, all right, and that was it.
On the surface, we should have failed. Like, and realistically, both Mike and I thought we would.
Hasn't he? Yeah, he's lost like a ton of weight, I think.
And go back to our friends
Good for
at
him.
Microsoft and ask for our jobs back. But we did think that we knew a fair bit about software development, that there were expertise that goes into it. I think we also had some pretty clear ideas of how to design a company, right? So when we were building Half-Life, we were also designing Valve at the same time.
We had no plan except for, by then, like I mentioned, Michael had gone to it.
It's a competition between Half-Life 3 and Winds of Winter.
So Gabe and I flew to...
So Winds of Winter is going to come. Probably George R.R. Martin will have finished 80-90% of it, and his estate will just release a finished version of it, ghost completed by some other author after he dies, and then his estate will get that guy to write the next one. Half-Life 3 is like really up in the air. You don't know if that's happening.
This is what you need to do to start a game company. You need to go out and hire
Gabe
some
looking
level
old.
designers and we kind of understood the engineering part. And then, because we were Michael's friends, we walked away with the source code to Quake that day. We had no contract yet. We had kind of an idea of what it could be. And
A game's quality is directly proportional to how good the lead developer looks. That's true. Fumito Ueda is the most handsome man in the game industry, and he's the best game director. Hideo Kojima. Have you guys seen a picture of young Hideo Kojima? Didn't I show that in a stream a few weeks ago?
I think most of us had no game development experience. We were either amateurs working in our homes at night for fun, or some people were from the software world, but they had never worked on a game. I think we had 3 or 4 people.
Leave Half-Life 3 to the fans.
When we started Half-Life.
Hell, give Crowbar Collective 3.
So we have to come up with an IP. So everything is done from scratch.
I'm more interested in... So, Valve is a very weird company because they have this weird... So, like, a company like Google will tell you that, well, the secret behind Google is that they have an amazing culture and that, they cultivate the correct amount of talent. And it's like, that's bullshit. Google would work with any culture. The culture has nothing to do with it. You guys just sort of got in really early on advertisement and internet searching. And all of the internet sort of infrastructure has been baked on top of technology that you own and you charge rent on. That's not like a bad thing. That's a fine thing. It's a fine service you guys do. But like, your culture is non-existent. This is just like a cope you guys are using. And if you don't believe me, look at all of your other products. Let's look at Google Plus. Look at the Google Glass. Look at the Stadia. It all fails. Google Docs succeeded, kind of. It's kind of fine, extra Excel spreadsheet stuff. But everything else fails because you guys don't just get somebody from the games industry to be in charge of your Stadia to make you a bunch of good games. You try to run it through committee and it doesn't work. Valve, and like, this is a lot of companies. Apple is like this. After Steve Jobs died, Apple just became the sort of zombie company. But Valve, they've sort of got this weird corporate culture, but every now and then they're like, yeah, we're just going to hire 20 really talented developers and they're just going to make a new game. And oh my god, you guys made Portal. How interesting. And I really want that part of Valve to become more active. Because there's no reason we couldn't be getting a Portal from this company every year. I think also Doug Church, the director of System Shock 1, currently works for them. But it's like, what do these people do? Are they just there collecting paychecks, doing nothing? Why do you have all these people? Like, you don't need all these talented game developers working on the Steam store. That's ridiculous.
Story called Mist. Stephen King's got in a grocery store.
Valve works really well with their community, which is really nice. Yeah, and they still have that sort of 90s attitude of like, hey man, mods, and it's all about like freely selling stuff on the internet, man. And it's like that sort of 90s, I don't know, Gen X hippieism of that era. It's still kind of alive there. So there is a lot of good things to be said about Valve. I just wish that like everybody says this, I wish they put money into games more. Just make a good game every year. You can do it. You're a gigantic company, and you can just hire, like, imagine if they hired Team Cherry. Imagine if after Hollow Knight came out, they were like, hey, Team Cherry, we're gonna give you $50 million, give us a new IP, and we'll own that, but you'll get $50 million, and you guys will be set for life, and you can make whatever you want to make. You can all create your new studios if you want. And, or they could do the same thing to, like, I don't know, Yacht Club games. So they could do it to Frictional. They could be like, hey, Frictional Games, we want to produce a horror game. You guys develop it for us. You can use Source 2, or you can use, like, we'd prefer you use Source 2. But you can use your own proprietary engine. I think, doesn't Frictional use Unreal? I don't know. But, like,
The point, but it was just tension.
we're just
What was interesting at first, we had two guys.
Cope.
Greg was working
Copium.
Sparrow, and then Half-Life was originally called Quiver. My job was then build a team and figure
Greg
out
Coomer.
what features should it have? How is it going to be different from a normal first-person?
Every time the engine got a feature for Prospero, Half-Life stole it, and then Half-Life just started getting visually, more impressive and cooler, and eventually it just, because it was going to ship sooner.
They're doing so much these days. They're hiring by the week. I mean, when the games start dropping, I'll accept this.
Kind of magical energy something, and so I worked with them on that and came up with the first version of the beam effects, and they were using it, they were happy with it, and then people on Half-Life are coming over and like, what is that? How did you do that? So very quickly that
Cooler.
got Half-Life. The disaster sequence has.
I wonder what he does at work all day.
For the Orgons.
Like there were things that we were doing that we thought would help us tackle the problem of what video games were. And what video games were a rapidly changing field where, at the time, 90% of video games failed to turn a profit.
That's
and a
true.
few percentage of them were very, very profitable, right? So it was a field that really.
And that's also the case today.
Dave and I brought some people, and then from there on out, we had to hire people. And Romero said you got to hire level designers. So we found some people who had industry experience.
Worked on Rise of the Triad first as a pixel artist, and then went with Duke Nukem, and then everything just went nuts. I was sitting in my office one day, and my phone rang, just out of the blue, and I pick it up, and it's this recruiter. Eventually, he hooked me up with Gabe, and they flew me up here. It was a big surprise.
But then we started looking, the nice thing that we had is we had a whole bunch of people in the world who had been working on mods, and so we could start looking at those folks. And that's where we hired a lot of our designers. Steve and Gus.
Now, do you guys wonder, might that be why Valve has such good modding support for their games and for other games? Do you think that might be why? Do you think that might be why Valve was all about, hey, let's get modders paid for their work, because it's run by a bunch of, like, the top brass of Valve are all just a bunch of ex-modders? Damn, you're late. Well, we're only like 6 minutes into the video. Hello, Victor.
Other than Doug, Gabe sent them an email.
Doug
and like,
Wood.
Who is a scammer? Never heard of these guys. Just kids, like barely 20, I swear. And they show up and they're just the most.
These images are really rough. These guys have all aged very gracefully, but like those images are pretty rough.
On some games,
Mark Laidlaw. Okay, he doesn't work with Valve anymore. Isn't that like? Wasn't there a huge thing of him leaving and like basically leaking the story of Half-Life 3? Didn't that happen? Am I wrong? It's weird that he's in this, if I'm correct.
because those guys were already doing stuff that was cool.
And then Mark showed up, and like Mark actually knows how stories work.
Hey,
and
Carlos.
and all this stuff, and he had all sorts of great ideas, and he also would just bring good ideas out of everybody else as well.
Like the person who
Gotta rock the hair while you're able to grow it. Yeah, like Gabe has pretty good hair still. He has really good hair genetics.
The creature designer for most of the AI for the creatures in the game was a manager at a Waffle House.
He left and talked about one of the scripts for Half-Life 3, but from what I hear, he's still on good terms with Valve, I think. Oh, okay, I mean, that's great.
It wasn't necessarily easy to find them at that stage in the video game industry, and then also convincing them that it was a better place to work than anybody else.
Quiver. I love these old developer photos. It is always a bunch of nerds. That's not true. That's not true. Only in America. If you look at development photos, old development photos from Japan, you have Hideki Kamiya, you have Kojima, you have Fumito Ueda. They're all very, very well groomed, very handsome, beautiful boys. It's only in Silicon Valley that we have these grunge metal hair, nerds.
One of the things that I definitely learned was how to hire.
Maybe that is why games are better. Oh yeah, so I definitely I hate the idea, and I complain about this on Twitter almost every day, because every day there's some damn news coming out about some idiot CEO making stupid decisions. We should charge gamers by the minute, and then they should pay $300 to play Grand Theft Auto 5, or maybe it was the hour. But if you don't have a love of video games, then you shouldn't be making management decisions in this industry, because all you're gonna do is try to squeeze people for nickel and dimes, and that's just not conducive to creating a culture or creating an industry that is gonna foster love and appreciation for the next generation. But also I don't know if things were better back then necessarily because of who these guys were. I think it might more just be who they weren't. They weren't businessmen. And, they were all super geniuses. Because back then, to know how to program, you actually had to be really smart. And you had to these guys were coding in compile code. Or in not compile, English fails me right now. But, what these guys weren't were suit-wearing businessmen out to make the quick bucks. They were, passionate about what they were doing. And they were teams of, 20 guys who all got to know each other and could actually work together really well.
Anyway, we had licensed IDS engine. We were using the Quick engine. And one of the things me and some
you don't stream enough. You never call anymore, Big Sad. I'm streaming now. I'm literally streaming now.
Join our lives together in a really seamless way. So
and I streamed a big video on Silent Hill, my most successful stream. I got way more views than I planned. Gotta love the grunge nerds. Gotta love the grunge nerds. And then you have what is it called? Pantera? I think Pantera music made it into System Shock 1. And it's oh, yeah, we're not going to sue because it's kind of cool. I was like, okay, thank you. Not enough. I'm sorry. There's not a lot of movies to stream, and I'm not playing games right now. I'm just programming.
Have all our textures fit in a certain 256 colors. That was a huge liberation.
The two tech investments we made for Half-Life was to get 16-bit color and skeletal animation for all the monsters.
But at the time, it was completely revolutionary. Your Quake characters were, it's like a text file of vertex positions over time.
I wanted so much more animation, and I wanted the animators to have the freedom to put in 100, 200, 500 frame of animation, if not more. And then you can do all sorts of other things because you have a skeleton, so it's oh, I can hook on a gun to a character. I can start to make changes of characters and replay the same animation, or reuse most of the same model, so we can swap out heads, we can swap out faces, whatever.
All the technology that went into the game
Rough.
to make it fun.
How is nail programming going?
So
currently trying to doodle a dragon. This is fan art somebody made of the dragon boss from Twilight Princess in Link's Awakening's visual style. Currently just trying to doodle out a dragon. So yeah, that's where development is. But good progress being made. Not so much this week, but I've been very sick in the past few days, so that's understandable.
Licensing the Quake engine, which was, very mature and had
Careful, he's gonna ask you to make it more
around with it.
Godzilla-like.
Heavily in scripting
It looks exactly like Godzilla already. Look at him. It looks just like Godzilla. This is literally what Godzilla looks like.
Since back into Doom, like my old put a lot of weird odd events in them. I think I
Medium fan of Aesir at the movie.
Like what I meant was to make the guys go into animation
Thank you.
and run, and then I would configure everything. It was all hack. This is total hacking. And that is mostly what I built, was like things like
The
characters
Godzilla
reacting
slander
and jumping out
here.
and made to look like, or I use a push brush to throw a head grab out to make it look like it launched at something.
Or if a loud sound happens.
They would respond, yeah.
Would
So
cower.
Games dictate was, as you walk forward, something needs to happen like every 3 to 5 seconds. The player stands still, the
Didn't have to be much.
universe can be quiet. But if they move forward, if they're active, the universe needs to play back something, needs to do something, even if it is
Yeah.
a scripted sequence or
or even just
a
an interesting sign or
sign or a
something.
sound or
When was the
something,
last
yeah,
time we
or
got a
something.
game about this, which was just, you're a guy in a facility and there's monsters in the facility. Get out of the facility. When was the last time
So
we
I came up
got
with
this?
interaction method where you could do little AIs where the characters would talk and interact with you a little bit, and then we wanted to do spectacle.
Quake
and
2 is the
that was
most,
sequences where you
is
tell a
like the most
character,
important
"You need to
game
run
ever.
here and then
Everybody
jump
use
into
the
this
engine.
animation."
Yeah.
And then have a bunch of you all synchronize your animation because it's somebody flying through the air, they're smashing something, or they're doing something
A
like
lot of
Yeah, then
careers
test it and figure out,
and a lot of
oh, this is real easy to break. That
you
was
know,
Yeah.
people got
roughest
their
thing about scripted
start
games
in the
where
industry
you'd have,
because
like,
of
a
this
head crab
engine.
on a scientist or something, and it's like, yeah, it works totally fine 90% of the time, but some people just sprint right at the scientist, and sometimes we have to put them behind glass. And
Sometimes
Control,
the
sort of?
level designers
Oh.
making the player
Okay,
want to
okay.
do the thing.
Dead Space
that gives them the most
remake?
fun is a very subtle
True.
art.
The tentacle sequence is probably the one I remember the most.
You're playing it, right? That was
Yeah.
the first time I think they melded together.
Because you had your
play
trigger
so closely.
and we wanted it to be triggered. So by the time you start to see it, you
I
see the
hate
scientist
that
flying through the
sequence.
air
This
into the
sequence
wall.
here. This
Then
sequence
you
sucks
could look in and you
ass.
could see the scientist being carried away. The tentacle itself is
And
separate
it really
on its own,
suffers.
and you
Yeah, exactly. Because of this. Because the models aren't actually interacting with each other. And God, I hate this. The models aren't interacting with each other, and this thing doesn't feel like it's actually a threat outside. It feels like something that's being activated on a script trigger.
Then you could
Look
look
at
in
this.
and you could see the scientist
Look at
being
this.
carried away. The tentacle itself is
Oh
separate,
wow,
it's on its
he's
own,
like
and you put it together and you put it together.
half a screen
To me,
away.
it's like moments like that, and that might have been the first one. is when you
This
start
boss
to
sucks.
See the scripted events in play start to blend a little bit more than just ambience.
I remember Brett in particular had done some of the lab scenes where scientists would walk from one area to another and just look at a monitor. And it gave them a little bit of life. A ton of the work that went into that area was because we knew it was going to be the beginning of the game, and we really needed to make it a vibrant and interesting, fun place to be and explore.
So originally they were designed to sort of be behind glass. They were just designed to be spectacle.
little vignette.
And then all of the level designers like, no, I'm gonna put that right in front of you. And I'm like, oh god.
And it's kind of
how am I
crazy
supposed to make this
that,
work? It's not supposed to do
you
it.
know, for all the work they did here, play this and then play Metal Gear Solid and tell me which game feels more cinematic and more sort of action driven. Like, which game succeeded on that front better?
An important message.
the run speed for the player was so insane.
10-year-old
It was
me
like
didn't realize how
25
awful
miles
that
an hour.
looked.
You could get so far, so fast, and so you'd either have to make the scripted sequence like so quick that you could barely see what's happening. Most people weren't looking in the right place anyways. So, you'd have to like get their attention with like a particle or a sound or lighting or something, and then you wanted them to see what was happening. But when we play tested, it was like a scientist was like being pulled into a vent or something. Like people wouldn't just stop and like, oh, sometimes they would be like, oh wow, look at that. They just run straight ahead and just start shooting.
It's hard when you think back to it to recognize that those kind of interactive moments were so new. Like people just hadn't seen
Metal
it.
Gear 1 is so
Because
terrible
no
to
other
play.
games were doing that. No other
Slander.
games had that interactivity. No other games had that spectacle playing out in front of you. And
Half-Life was more focused on not trying to take control away from you as often as Metal Gear Solid. That's fair. But like Half-Life is very much an on-rail shooter. It just, the rail is broken. But you start the game, you're in a monorail. You're literally just on a rail. And then you just sort of go through a rail through the entire facility, and you keep going.
just added that whole.
And I think it's more
started to develop
prominent
theory
feeling
around
in
interactivity.
Half-Life 2,
And
though.
the environment
I feel like
needed
Half-Life
to
1 has
let you do what you wanted and then react
more
to
sort
it.
of
So if you
kinetic
did something, if you
energy
shot your
going
gun,
on,
there needed to be a
whereas
bubble
Half-Life
wall.
2
If you
just
did a
feels
thing,
like
people
going
needed to
through the
know. Other
motion
characters needed to
because
react. The
Valve
world is
thought it would be
acknowledging you
cool to
exist, the
toy
world is
around with a
acknowledging all
physics
your
engine.
actions, And that's a huge part of reinforcement.
And you'd have these conversations where you'd be sitting in a design review and somebody say that's not realistic, and you're like, okay, what does that have to, like? Explain
You
to me
think
why that's
Half-Life 8's
interesting,
better
because
than
in the real
Metal Gear
world, I have to
Solid?
write up
That's
lists
crazy.
of stuff I have to go to the grocery store to buy, and I've never thought to myself that realism is fun. I go play games to have fun, and so we had to come up with some notion of what fun was. We knew it was an ad hoc definition.
You know for damn
The
sure
degrees to which
Hideo Kojima
they
would not tell you that
recognized
he
they
makes games
responded
for
to
fun.
players' choices and actions, right? You know, in behavioral science, you would say we're explicitly talking about what were reinforcers and what the reinforcement schedules were, right? At that point in time, that was a useful way of making design decisions. The point I would make is, if I go up to a wall and shoot it,
I will
me
say
thinking that the
Half-Life
wall is
definitely did
ignoring me.
more
I'm getting
for
a narcissistic
3D
injury, even though the
development
world is
and
ignoring me. So
like
there's
3D
to me,
level
I'm trying to
design and
convey to
such
the
than
user a
Metal
sense
Gear
of, yes,
Solid.
we're making
Metal Gear
choices,
Solid
yes,
is
you are
basically just a
progressing,
2D
which meant
game.
the game had to acknowledge that back to you. If you shoot at a wall, there have to be decals. If you kill a bunch of Marines, the Marines have to run away from you, right? You have to have this sense of the game acknowledging and responding to the choices and actions and progressions
Ooh,
that you
vertex
made.
lighting.
Otherwise, it loses any sort of impact.
Monster problems.
Ted and I, we were on the same page in terms of what the game should look like, which would be just sort of alien in a very naturalistic kind of way. Like these are creatures from another dimension, another planet
Ew.
that look like they evolved in a way. And Chuck had he came from Duke Nukem. He made a bunch of monsters that went in a sort of a different direction. And for a while, the game had a hard time coalescing around a single vision.
All the ones that looked like genitals were Ted's. All the ones with shiny bits that looked like alien soldiers were Chuck's.
That was a thing when I first came in, Ted's style and mine.
trying to figure that
trying
out.
to find the harmony between the two to make it work. Yeah, he really liked the Wayne Barlow aesthetic, and I had a little bit different, but it worked. Ted made these really weird. He did the head crab. You know, that's
I do really like
and I remember taking his
I
head
do
crab
like
and
the
putting it on
monster
scientists
design
and
in
making
these
the zombies.
games.
Right. Well, we pretty much
I'll
had
say.
been talking. It's like, okay, we'll do you do that, and Ted did the soldiers, I did the scientists. I did a lot of the aliens, and with the Hornet gun, I did the Hornet gun for that one as well too.
And this is
You know,
also
the
like
aliens
another
fighting.
showcase of the times where it's just like, yeah, man, let's get two artists to work together and create like a new aesthetics by mixing together a bunch of shit that they like. That's pretty cool. Whereas now, well, you know, now they probably just plug it into, you know, Midjourney or whatever. But a lot of the times you have monster design and like character design that feels like it's ticking all the correct boxes, where it's like, yes, this character looks like the face is very symmetrical, but there's a bit of not lack of symmetry, and there's like, you know, there's enough iconic things. He has like a fur coat or something like that, and it's like, well, this doesn't feel like anything more than just like you checking all the boxes
Well, I
of how
did
to
some
do
animations for the
good
first
character
one.
design.
I have to call him that.
Very inside the
That's
box.
a Ted creature. The hound eye was Ted's as well.
Hey, Web Talks.
If it's got a lot of flesh on it, maybe too much.
Yeah, that's a Tedism.
You can always tell Ted's designs because they're much more aquarium than
Yeah.
aquarium and or like unspeakables. You know?
Oh, Big Mama! I forgot about Big Mama.
Big
No,
Mama.
it's a testicle, right? It's like,
I concepted a guy in sort of a NASA spacesuit, a scientist guy. He was actually modeled after a couple of programmers I know, big beefy bearded Linux programmers. You know,
I don't know.
and so that's where the
I don't
HTV suit
think
sort of emerged
I don't
out
think
of.
if I was
There's a lot
watching
of-
the Grounded documentary, the one Naughty Dog made about The Last of Us, I don't think Bruce Straley's gonna talk to me about how much, oh yeah, so I was just throwing a bunch of testicles and I decided that they should be the monsters in the game.
desire for not having a space marine, or be the guy, and then Chuck Jones went off and did a pretty different version of him that became known as Ivan the Space Biker.
Oh God. I remember telling myself, it's like anytime you make a screenshot, make sure it's good because you don't know where this is going to appear.
picture
You know,
froze? No, I
Ivan
think I
is
just
the
paused it.
Prime example of that one. So you're looking at it. Well, go look at Quake. It's like, okay, I'm looking at that. And he's got this incredibly boxy head, and you're always hearing, don't put too many polys in it.
Oof.
It's like, okay, so Ivan got the square head, and it was kind of an early, just a rough prototype.
This is
of,
very
of Gordon
cool.
Freeman baby.
Hey,
And I
G-Man.
remember,
Oh my
you know
God,
what
we
Gordon
got the
looked
very
like.
G-Man
So it's
in
like I
stream.
was looking for somebody, and I found Mike Harrington. It's
This
like,
is crazy.
What does Gordon look like? He's like, I don't know. Put yourself in there. It's like, oh, okay. And so I went in and put kind of my likeness on the early Gordon model.
What?
And it kind of stayed there.
I didn't know
I was a
this.
tattoo artist, so yeah, I definitely had. I don't have anything to work with now, but yeah, that point I had a ponytail on.
if you play the game, you know that's Chuck. If you play multiplayer, you see the model. It's
But yeah, if you look on the back of that, there's this little
Yeah,
four
yeah.
triangles, and he's got a little ponytail back there. I did the G-Man, and again, that one was.
What? Wait a minute, he has a ponytail?
So we needed our own model in the game, and it kind of stayed.
Okay, I didn't know this.
Well, I was ex-tattoo artist, so yeah, I definitely had. I don't have anything to work with now, but yeah, that point I had a ponytail on.
if you play the game, you know that's Chuck. If you play multiplayer, you see the model.
Ew!
On the back of that, there's this little four triangles, and he's got a little ponytail.
Ew,
I did
that's
the G-Man.
terrible.
And again, that one was Gabe was talking about the cigarette man from X-Files. So we needed our own equivalent of that.
Because after a while, after playing with the game for a long time, people realized like, hey, we made this character, and just in this one office scene in the beginning, you know, where he's behind the window and he's talking to a scientist or something, and he's like, he looks really creepy. It was late in the day that we thought, oh, okay, well, he's going to be the big bad behind all of this. Scatter him around in places that you can't get to him, but he's there mysteriously.
There wasn't enough in the beginning of the game. It's like, we need another monster. Headcrabs weren't enough. It got kind of repetitious. I think I grabbed Ted and said,
Ponytail, been
retconned.
retconned.
And so he whipped it out in not much time at all.
It's just like Max
Probably get the
Payne.
timing just right.
It is just like
I
Max
have
Payne.
no time to do this. I'm just going to bang it out. And then once it was working, everybody said, oh, let's go back and sprinkle them back in the...
Yeah, our main character is just
and
like
that was
the
just-
likeness of a guy that works for us.
Yeah, because they weren't real tough. They weren't supposed to be tough.
But they were ranged.
But they're ranged and they were fun and they had a big show and like was showing off a bunch of stuff.
Half-Life 1 scene's underwhelming now, but man, in the late 90s, it was pretty trippy. Yeah, like, this was the thinking man shooter. Like, this is where that term originates, I believe. I think that's when this, like, the thinking man shooter terminology came out. System Shock had done it before, but yeah, this was definitely cool back then.
I knew the assassin came in pretty late.
That was it. It was like, okay, I have a week and a half. It was already done. It was already all modeled, already all animated. And the requirement was it couldn't have any new animations and any new anything. So had to come up, I grabbed a bunch of Steve Vaughn's AI and bang that thing out. I built a level super crude, but it had all the right spacing and all the right heights and all the right geometry.
Again, it's just a presentation where this creature gets to shine, this enemy gets to shine, and is your entire focus for that scene. And it's kind of a memorable experience because it just takes place in a different fashion than other encounters. You know, when you get knocked out, and there's all kinds of like, so the lights go out and you get dragged through a corridor and things. So again, it's something you remember in the game.
It's just referenced in the beginning with the guard mentioning, man, you cut the ponytail, sellouts.
We just did a lot of
Wait, is that in
the
beginning of Half-Life or Half-Life 2?
Monsters, and you used everything that we had developed and started seeing which ones kind of stuck out a little oddly. You know, like we had the Hound Eyes that Ted had concepted, and Kelly had done great sounds for them, and so they seemed like a very oddly plausible sort of alien creature.
Good sound design.
What we called the Panther.
I'll say good sound design in the
Black
game.
Panther-looking creature that also just had a big red eye for his face and a big shark fin coming out the back. And design-wise, he seemed like in
the beginning of one when you step off the tram.
Things, you like to have a gradient of difficulty, a gradient of.
Oh, it's in Black Mesa.
So,
yeah. Okay.
And, yes, this like Panther.
I need to play Black Mesa again. I played Black Mesa when it was in like alpha development. I think half the game had been released or something. That was like 10 years ago or something crazy like that. I need to. I need to go back. But also, I love Black Mesa. I love that thing exists. They were like, yeah, we're a bunch of modders and we're gonna remake Half-Life 1. And Steam was like, okay. Valve was like, yeah, go for it, guys. That's cool.
It was something that I did, just another creature from the air. We had the chub toad that we were going to use as a feeding animal to help, and they had a mechanic to where they were going to use this to distract monsters so you could possibly get by. And it pretty much reached fruition where we created the object, but then again, time became the factor and it had to get cut.
I love this guy. There's possibility of a text in the game I fell on the shoulders of a single person. Damn.
All these like big, really banal office buildings, and that's kind of the direction I went. So it started becoming a facility, and so I started making these kind of linoleum tiles and the drop ceiling, the concrete block wall, the black and white tile floor.
She was like the texture artist for for most of the game. It's just an overwhelming amount of work.
Originally, I was hand painting all of the textures, and you can really see a shift in some of them where they go from hand painted to photo reference. The photo references are much better. All over Seattle, Harbor Island, Gasworks Park, getting rusty metal things. What can I get good pictures of that is?
Oh my God, that's really cool
and interesting to look at. And then how can we use this?
Yo!
Box cars, and I don't know how many hallways in Half-Life are.
They actually like went in and like took all the images. That's pretty cool. They like restored them or whatever. That's really cool.
The Kirkland Costco.
Have I played the System Shock remake? It looks pretty cool, but those are some big shoes to fill. I've played for about an hour. I played the demo just a couple of weeks ago. The free demo you can get before you buy the game. I think I talked about this maybe on stream. I'm like 50-50 where there's a lot of stuff that I like, but I'm also like, you guys maybe could have taken even more liberties with this. Like, maybe you don't need to be this committed to the old visual aesthetic, because you don't have to be like, you can make it look nicer, you can make it look a bit more distinct. You can make the area layouts be a bit easier to read, but there's a lot of stuff that I like. They integrated the sort of vendor stuff from BioShock, well, from System Shock too, but like from BioShock, and I feel there's a lot of BioShock in the System Shock remake. Not a bad thing, but I don't know. I need to go back to it.
Packages
I need to
don't
play
know
so
why
many
I
games,
needed,
guys.
snacks or
It's
something.
embarrassing.
The first year was all about opportunity.
Oh,
And it
Silver,
really was
welcome,
quite a
welcome.
struggle. We
You're
were trying to
like
find our footing.
We were getting
26
3
minutes
months
late, it's
before
fine.
supposedly shipping in '97, and it's like, this isn't gelling. This is really not good. This is like, quick knockoff, cash grab, stupid. And let's not do that. There was a lot of disconnect between what all of the different groups were doing, what engineering was doing, and what level design was doing, and what animation was doing. We had a bunch of monsters that had no plans to get in the game because nobody else was assigned to work on them.
I also love this. Whenever this happens in a creative project where they're like, well, we don't really have anything. What we have are like 50 different ideas that don't congeal together. And then somebody sits down and is like, don't worry, I'm going to connect all of it. And what you'll get at the end of this is just this amazingly fully realized product. I think Morrowind happened like that, where all of the distinct lore of the world was basically written by some madman over some crazy summer when he was high on mushrooms
What's
or
supposed to go in
something.
here? Oh, I don't know. Everybody's gonna do a bunch of stuff. I'm like, no, that doesn't work that way.
So here we were, all these people doing all these cool things, and just everything's just this random collection of, oh, here's a cool moment and a cool this, and and then it's gone, and
Oh,
now it's the
them!
next thing.
Welcome,
Because the way
welcome,
we were building
welcome.
The game was every level designer.
Gomenazai, Aesir
silos
Sama.
over. And I think
Gomenazai
that throughout
right
the
back at you,
developers'
pal.
Roots. But it wasn't
Kimosabe.
cohesive, and it certainly didn't have a strategy for like maximizing any of that stuff.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It was like the first time everybody piled into a room, and Gabe had his crazy there with a beautiful Mac monitor, and we played for 2 days. He played everyone's levels. But I remember one moment he turned around, he was like this with his hair. He was like, we're gonna fail, we're gonna fail, we're gonna fail, we're gonna fail, we're gonna fail. And I was just like,
What Miyazaki did with Demon Souls?
Good.
Yeah, kinda. I feel like Demon Souls, I think you can probably, there's probably a lot of pre-Miyazaki Demon Souls still in Demon Souls, but a lot of Demon Souls is very like, this is stuff Miyazaki brought in. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at.
We were doing our best trying to make this game and the story, and we had.
I think most of the best art is created through some non-conventional way. Totally.
You're not going to pay us to continue developing this, but we're going to do it anyway.
Late is just for a little while, suck is forever, right? We could try to force this thing out the door, but that's not the company we want to be. That's not the people we want to be. That's not the relationship we want to have with our customers.
And so we kind of.
Oh, Gabe, you betray me. Please release more games, man.
Kelly and I kind of sat down and sort of tried to take an inventory of all the.
It was
stuff we built.
burping, and
I wasn't
apparently
just
Kirk
building,
Fritz doesn't really
lore
like
off
the
that
myth of
and
him
then
creating
those
lore high. Of course he doesn't. But that's a better story. So that's the story he should go with. Also, I'm just gonna put something out here right now. Because if I don't put this out there now, I think people are going to accuse me of plagiarism. Take a look at this. Okay? Take a look at this. After I release the game, people might say plagiarism. This is proof I did it first. Okay? We'll get back to this in maybe a year. Just putting it out there.
Design cabal process to try to give some.
Didn't recognize Gabe for a second.
And
Gabe
so
looks
Cabal
good.
is a
Gabe's
small
been
group of people,
cleaning up.
Multidisciplinary group. There's like an artist, level designers, engineers, and everything.
Morrowind
in
had a
small
professional
team with
fantasy
a
writer who
staff
worked on the game
level.
too.
There was the arc. Mark had
Gabe
written,
looks
so
like
we knew how to
Moses.
build the story.
And we got a small group of people together, and we started with the beginning, and we went through literally what map do we need to build to tell us the story we're going to have to tell, and then what does that connect to, and what's the next piece and the next piece.
The strongest and most influential thing that came out of them was, to me, the sketches, and they were really the visual meeting notes, right?
We came up with a formula for how that worked. We had a certain percentage of the time where you were fighting, a certain percentage of the time where you're exploring, a certain percentage of the time where
Gabe
you're
looks like a
solving
wizard
puzzles.
or something.
And
Yeah,
so we could
kinda.
apply that uniformly through the game, and that worked pretty well.
But see, this is also what I'm talking about, where Half-Life is just this product of this amazing collection of human beings, really talented, really good at this specific thing in a very specific time in history. They get together and they make this game, and this game is super successful. And like, I just wish Valve did this. Like, yeah, you guys don't want to just shit out a product to shit out a product. That's totally fair. I can respect that, but there's a lot of indie developers. Like, just imagine if you took some, like, the 20 best-selling or 20 interesting games from itch.io that you played, and you were like, these were all made by solo developers. We're going to bring these developers to Burbank, California. We're going to give them a house, and we're going to just assign them a project lead, and they're all going to work together on some amazing game. I would really love to see that, because we need more of that.
Good morning, and welcome to the Black Mesa Transit System.
In general, people overstate the amount Kirkbride contributed to the lore. His contribution were important, but it's not the end-all be-all of lore contributions. Screw that Kirkbride asshole, then. You need Wizard Aesir? My vampire era never truly began, though. I'm thinking of getting water. I'm gonna get some water. I'll be back in 1 minute. I'm back. One of you left. Concurrent viewers went down by one. One of you is a traitor. Not a real fan.
The Black Mesa Research Facility.
Unsubscribe.
The whole opening of the game was specifically a reaction to how all the other first-person shooters.
He'll settle for Wizard Vampire.
Like sometimes, like they would just open without a cutscene, but you know you're standing in a room with a gun and there's a thing attacking you. So we could look at examples.
Ah, my throat's so dry.
That's what Half-Life had to do because every other game.
You bought a roguelike about vampires? What's it called?
Started up the game, we're staring at it, and then
Is it
accidentally
good?
bump their mouse and realized this is live.
Yeah.
And as simple as that sounds, it was mind-blowing for so many people because there's too much going on. This isn't real time. This is a recording. You know.
That was sort of the way we, stumbled through a lot of the new narrative tricks. It was like, well, what can we do that?
Golden
we can do
Crone
this in a movie
Hotel?
or a story, but nobody's doing this in first-person.
Let me know if it's
You're
good.
this anonymous scientist, and you're riding on this train. And
Also, let me know if
roll the
it's,
credits
well,
at
it's a
the beginning.
roguelike.
Kinda
It's
like
probably
cinematic
short.
experience almost. Like, I don't think games had really gone down that road. It's so funny to look at it now because it's so primitive, but at the time it felt like you were really in this Black Mesa world.
Pre-disaster survived from the first year, so a lot of that geometry was from that.
Only 2 runs in, but I like it so far. Okay. Golden Crone
The
Hotel.
hallways, the curved corners in the hallways, things like that. They more became sort of like Lego pieces that John could use and
Ooh,
extrude.
this has been getting good
A
reviews.
lot of the raw geometry from pre-disaster.
Yo, wait a minute. This looks pretty good. Guys, do you want to talk a bit about this pixel art? Look at this. I really like this. I like the gigantic cobble blocks to sort of give it the texture of a stone castle, but obviously you can't do it to scale. Nice miniature. The moon looks really nice. It does look kind of like it's in a different art style from the rest of the image, because like the mountains have a very distinct. Like compare these mountains to the mountain in the foreground, and it's just like I don't know. Still looks nice. And like they have dithering. Look at this. They have dithering in the moon, but I don't see dithering anywhere else. I don't know. Aesir complains about images he sees on image search. All right, I might check this out.
The work to ship it.
Currently playing Metal Unit, very nice pixel art, so pleasing to look at. Now I gotta
Those are
Google that.
Heavily influenced by NASA control rooms with my favorite green.
Have I
camera.
played Lies of P yet? I like it, but I'm still somewhat undecided. No, I haven't. Sophie's been sending me messages about it, but I haven't played it yet. Like I said, I haven't really played any games since like late September. I think I haven't played anything basically since Armored Core 6 came out.
I'm trying to remember, and then there was just lots of hallways, and people were getting lost, and I did the color stripes to help people follow them places.
One of the things that was actually super.
Oh yeah, so this looks pretty nice.
You know,
Not necessarily this lady here. but like this.
My God, what are you doing?
Yeah, all this work so you can start a microwave.
It's very sort of
reference to real life.
block colors.
That happened regularly.
But
like we regularly.
I like it.
There were a few people who were just, challenged with.
Reap
kitchen
alert!
appliances,
Oh God.
and, at one point we had a company fire. we had a lot of things going on in that kitchen.
All of that stuff had a real kind of eloquence that in the late 90s, in a world where everything was so over the top, but we still got to go on flights of fancy.
My brother plays Lies of P, and he had to mod the game to be easier. Weak.
Like a super pivotal
Your brother is a
for me,
weakling.
was when we came in this one morning.
Just
and we
suffer
saw
with the
this
rest
kind
of us.
sequence
God.
Kelly and John Guthrie and Wedge was in that.
That
office,
image is super
Dario,
compressed.
they were all
Yeah.
dark.
Yeah, I know. I know the game doesn't look
Kelly
like
and John worked all
that.
night and did the test chamber, and it's pretty much like the one we shipped.
I mean, that was a lot of what went on in that room that we called the submarine. It was just improvisation, just what can we do to solve this problem? How do we connect what's happening forward?
I actually, so, I don't know how many of you used to watch the old Essays and Espresso podcast back in the day. We used to do the Game of the Year awards, the SAE game award, that trophy, and I think Link won Twink of the Year for Hyrule Warriors once. But now I'm like, well, Tears of the Kingdom. If we did it this year, Tears of the Kingdom Link, too feral, not a twink. But Gay Pinocchio from Lies of P, he'd probably win. Just goes to show that twink death is very real.
To be somehow important, but we just don't know what to do. John and I talked about it. I went home that night and I sort of sketched.
And it'll happen to you. It'll happen to everyone you love eventually.
We'll do sounds. We'll just throw everything we can at it. We built that basically that day. It was just a sort of a one-day throw together. That's how fast we were moving.
They had audio, right?
I also think maybe Ganon won Hunk of the Year, but this year I'm like, I don't know. I feel like
Damn, I have not.
I feel like Tears of the Kingdom Link might get the awards. I don't know.
This immersive experience of just actually happening like this, and it's like, okay, I see what it is.
I originally thought the main character of Lies of P was a woman.
Unbroken experience that happens to you, the player, and then that was this
that's a really good indicator of their twink powers, I guess. The tracking on boss attacks sucks bad, and there's a lot of Elden Ring endless combo spams at times. Still good though. Hey Dip. Yeah, that does kind of suck. I don't love. I complain about this every day. I like memorable, interesting, well-directed bosses. I don't want to be doing these combos endlessly. They're the worst parts of these boss fights. Nobody ever hold these standards against me.
Okay, now I feel like
it's
we're
different
on
when I
track
do
for
it.
finishing this product. To me, it shifted my brain to have a lot of confidence that this product coming together rather than just generating a lot of content that exists independently of other content.
One of the ways we were funding our development was we sold a preview copy of Half-Life 2, a video card company, I forget which one. And so they had in their contract that we had to deliver it to them by a certain date. And we got like the first 3 levels done for them. It was really a good milestone for us, just from working as a company, because hey, there was a deliverable. We got it done, and we shipped it off.
10 attack combo.
And then I swear the next day it leaked. And I was just livid at first, which was stupid. But I was just like, oh, I can't believe you guys let this get out. Like, this wasn't us, And then it turned into something amazing where people started playing it. And it was all over, and we started, seeing it, online, what people were thinking about it. And I forget which magazine who said, usually we don't review, beta software, but they reviewed it and said, this is awesome. And that gave us a tremendous amount of confidence. It was an outside validation of what we were trying to do, that it was the right thing.
I think just with first-person shooters already, they were kind of like the valves of weapons you put into first-person. You got to have a shotgun, and there's obviously a pistol. You need your weapon that's going to make you struggle and you drive you to get another weapon.
That was a lesson in how to make all of your weapons.
It's interesting. I don't think we have, the pistol is always very interested in these sorts of games because it's always a starter, and like you said, it's just there so that you have something to compare the power of the other weapons to, and also it's like your dump ammo, because you'll just find pistol ammo, but when you empty out all the other guns, you're like, okay, fine, now I'll empty out all of my pistol ammo. But I don't feel like the pistol has really come that far of a way, considering it's like the basic primary weapon for all of these games. I think some interesting experiments have been done. I like the pistol in Resident Evil 4. I like that idea of you don't really use this weapon to put enemies down. You use this weapon to sort of to stun them or to sort of just poke at them so that you can get splash damage in through roundhouse kicks and such. I like the pistol. I like the revolver in BioShock. I think the revolver idea, or that sort of Magnum idea, is interesting, where the handgun, the pistol, it's powerful, but it's slow, and it's hard to get maybe an aim off. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of untapped potential in the pistol.
So each one did something completely different.
Halo
All the crazy
Combat
weapons,
Evolved pistol.
those are my fault.
No joke,
so
one
I
of the
did,
best
the rocket
weapons.
launcher, the Gauss gun,
Maybe.
the
I haven't
the
played
Snorks.
that. Early access before EA was a thing. I think EA was a thing back then. Wasn't EA? Isn't EA from '93? Electronic Arts. Founded in... No, wait a minute. They're from, 82, but how long have they been doing video games? Merger... games. List of Electronic Arts games. Oh, well, from 81, basically. Huh. Okay.
Funny to watch people run.
But I know what you mean. It's a different
It's called a
EA.
snark, but I wanted something, little creature that you could bring up and hold, and you could throw it out.
Since the 80s.
Everybody hated campers at that point.
PvP was a
They wanted
lot
to
of
camp
pistols.
weapons.
I don't
Literally.
mean they haven't done different things with the pistol. I feel like there's definitely games where the pistol is more powerful and less powerful. I mean more that the pistol really informs the experience in a very interesting way, other than just being the starter weapon. Or like the weapon of last resort, where they actually manage to sort of keep the pistol, give it some longevity, and make it characterize different sections of the game differently. And like maybe you actually want to use the pistol in interesting ways against some enemies. I guess Metal Gear Solid, technically, since you can put a silencer on that, but I think you can put a silencer on most things there.
Really find a little hidey hole and just sit out there and just throw out 30 of them. And they're all over the map. I had a cat, and you sit there and you do your finger blue. Yeah, you do your finger towards him, and he'd get mad at you and he'd swat. So that was the inspiration for that particular
Typical
animation.
cat
and then the
behavior.
Other, that big alien creature with a, we needed some kind of alien weapon. Drew that one, built that one, animated that one, but that was also another one that whenever you could get in a corner and just shoot them in the air because the hornets would track. I think that was the biggest thrill, is brainstorming these with your crew, making them, building them, putting them in the game, and then playing with them, and then they're fun.
And then playing with them.
Having a melee weapon. I think it was Steve Bond and Ken Birdwell and I were saying we wanted a device where the world was reacting to. It really goes back to that theory of fun. But we were just running around like idiots, smacking the wall. It's an odd thing to know in retrospect, but at the time it felt profoundly satisfying to be able to smack walls. And that was just an example of how that fairly abstract notion of what fun was ended up translating into a set of decisions that were really visceral. When you're going around whacking a wall, a crowbar is an obvious thing to whack a wall.
I was literally typing Metal Gear Solid. The SOCOM. Arakan. I can't do the voice. Throat too sore.
If the sound could let you know what's going to happen, that's really makes it powerful. So we're always on the lookout for that in level design and monster design, communicating, because the AI is often hidden from the player. So we use the sound to broadcast.
Look,
the internal
I'm not
state of
trying to be
AI.
mean, but this guy, he's legit got that phenotype of, he looks like an alien wearing a human suit, Am I wrong?
From the player. So we use the sound to
The guy from The
broadcast
Office also
internal
has
state of
that,
AI.
the British Office, who then was in an X-Men movie.
Soldiers, they tell you, I'm injured, I'm going to throw a grenade, I'm taking cover. They are broadcasting as constantly as they can what's about to happen. So it was really important to try to keep those states distinct so that as you play the game...
You think that was
you're actually
mean? I'm
getting
not
aware
trying to
of
be
it.
mean.
You're starting to be able to tell what's about to happen.
We knew he was a musician too, so he could do sounds, but he also decided he was going to write the sound engine. And then he wrote the soundtrack. And
Guy might be perfectly nice, he just looks really messed up.
It was crazy.
There just weren't that many of us. I had a little bit of a background playing music. I understood
Like
the
Men in
sound engineering
Black.
well, so it was really easy for me to just hook sounds in, and I understood enough about the level design side.
Whoa, wait a minute. Wow, wait a minute.
So it was really easy.
He was like grunge metal hair guy back in the day, and now he's like soft-spoken, pristine sound designer or something.
Sounds could come from anywhere.
Crazy
And then
evolution.
I just heavily modified them. Usually those are animal sounds. Reversing, changing the pitch, chopping them up and rearranging them. Head crabs were rats. The little squeaky, yeah, that's a rat.
I think he looked like an alien in a human suit, but in a good way.
Yeah,
That was actually mean. I'm not trying to be mean.
Sounded like you were an event, and that wasn't really happening, I guess, at least in Quake and other games.
Nothing personal. How do we know? I'm not an alien in a human suit. You've never seen me and an alien in the same room.
Echoey DSP
Um.
made an enormous difference, right? You believe the space.
I'll do a face reveal one day, so
Kelly
trust
tells
me.
me, "Oh God, Chuck,
Trust me that I'm not an alien.
the characters could speak.
It's kind of messed up that you would call me an
That's
alien in a
like, you know,
human
that's super
suit.
easy.
That's
You know,
a
you can just
crazy
look
rude
at the
thing
audio
to say
and
to
see if
somebody.
they're talking and do that, but like getting the mouth to move is stupid, he says.
Half-Life
And
is
I
too
went,
advanced
Chuck
to be
Jones told
made
me
by
the same thing. I
humans.
told him making the mouths move is super trivially easy. but
Went from
they're talking
beast
and
to
knowing how to spell
kin.
it, or close is completely impossible. And Kelly and I just broke up with each other, like,
That's
oh.
pretty
And
good.
So I went back to my office, and he went back to his office. And the characters were talking, and their mouths were moving. And it was only because we sat there at lunch bitching about an animator who was 100% right.
Why are you leaving me here?
Scientist conversations, Kelly and I made that. When they're next to each other, one scientist will occasionally play a question, and the other one will give him an answer. And it's not a script, you know. It just might be, it might not always make sense.
I am rather looking forward to this analysis, aren't you? I don't think so.
But it had a bunch of personality. It was really cool. And I worked on getting those guys to look at you and turn their heads.
When we first added the ability for scientists to respond to the player and other things in the environment, I would call them response rules.
This guy kind of looks like Bob Saget. Not a lot, but like a bit. Like, you know, you can kind of see it in him. Maybe it's the glasses.
Hello, the automatic diagnostic and announcement system welcomes you to the Black Mesa Research Facility. Remember, have a secure day.
I've been building geometry in isolation. Ooh, once the cable process has been formed, they work together to stitch those levels into a single cohesive play
I hadn't really
experience.
started working on the biggest part of the game, which I ended up shipping, which was surface tension. Prior to then, a lot of the work that I had done was...
Was this guy handsome when he was young? He looks like he could have been really handsome when he was
All
younger.
of that was ditched. There were some
Or maybe he
concepts
just has
made
good
through elements
hair.
we built from zero. But you know what did make it through was power up. Yeah, basically that geometry survived.
He's looking
completely
like Bob
intact. It was
Saget,
so
better or
closely
worse than
designed
a
for
skin
that
suit
creature
alien?
That because the
It's
creature
kind of the
survived,
same.
The levels survived along with it. Yeah, there's this sort of central circular thing where you have to rotate the train, and you have to kill the Gargantua first because he was always defending the way out, and then you have to go to like another area which looks.
Yeah, I
like
hate
it's
this
designed
sequence
for
too.
It was a flooded
This is
upstream, you have to drain
well, this is
the
fine.
generation and
But
switch
that
power on.
sequence with the military
Yeah, I
guys
remember
there
him
in the
being totally
sandbags, I
central to the whole
don't
thing.
particularly
And then
love.
why
I
we
also
brought
hate
the player,
that
which is, I mean, that's pretty much like design
rail
point number one
cart.
for all level design. Okay, well, how do we prevent the player from just walking straight out to do the
When I
exit?
first played
And design
Half-Life, the
backwards from there.
announcer might as well have been pure noise for how hard it was to understand. Oh,
First
noise.
year, we built a lot of world space, a lot of track, as we call it. And
He does
that's
kind of
where
look
we
like
tried to
Bob
fit
Saget.
the
I'm not
AI
wrong.
into the existing maps. What we did the second year was we built the AI in very constrained environments that showcased the AI. Let's make the ideal space for the AI, and then give that to the level designers to incorporate those elements into their maps.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, this is good. This is good stuff
For
here.
the AI, and then give that to the
How System Shock 2 coded is this screenshot here? Like that white background with that blue 90s PC lighting on it. Ooh, and you know, the flashing lights. This is some good System Shock 2 core. Mwah. But it's even before System Shock 2, but it still looks good.
level designers to incorporate those elements into their maps.
Sagging
So it
these
worked better,
nuts.
more
Hey
interesting
now.
than that. Gargantua was an example.
Hey,
of that.
Bob Saget
And
isn't
everyone's
alive
special.
anymore,
Yeah,
so
we
it's
had
messed up that you would drag his name like
He had
that.
designed all these interesting encounters with him just in his test map, and so he had him up high and down low, and so basically we just sort of re-leveraged that. So, okay, let's start with the player comes in low.
Wasn't he in, like,
and
Fuller
there's
House or
a
something?
Marine on
I
the
don't
same
know.
level.
I
The
just
next
know
one
the
they're
name.
up high, and they come running down because it was really neat to see them retreat. They try to run back up the stairs and try to climb from the other side.
So Steve Bond, like I mentioned earlier, was this really young guy who had been
His
making
comedy
mods
was
and
that
Quake
dirty though?
really the
Oh,
designer
really?
for so much
Was
of
he
the
like a
AI
dirty
and all
comic?
that
I
to
thought he
about
was
the
like family
soldiers, the
friendly.
forensic fight in Half-Life.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a language we could sort of use to.
You didn't know that? Oh my god. You didn't know that. How embarrassing.
These are good places to go in general and are interesting.
He was a super dirty humor comedian. It's bizarre.
We were trying to build something that utilized, the train technology.
And now he's a level designer
So we
called
thought, well, let's
Dave
give the player
Riller.
something that they can control, but in a limited way. We couldn't do vehicles like you see in Half-Life 2. So we did the most constrained vehicle we could think of, which was the train. Players didn't always bring the train with them. And so you had a bunch of these poor people walking down these tunnels.
Oh, is that why you electrified the
And
rail?
yeah, and the rails, that was part of the
Kept buying
feedback.
from that.
Part of the feedback was, well, you can just bypass all this, so we made the rails electric. It's like, well, maybe that'll teach them to bring the train with them. But the basic idea was, let's explore that, and then also
Hey,
reveal some of
you
the
shouldn't have
deep
made it
parts of the
electric.
base,
You should have
the
let the
abandoned areas where you might get a
people
lot
walk
more
around if they don't want to
we
use your
designed
dumb
some of the-
train.
Some of the ones that didn't make it into the game to appear there, bats that would dive on you, and while you're on the train,
bats.
sticky bats, and then We also tried hard to not make it feel like it was this super linear thing, so we tried to give little branches, and so there was a
Oh,
challenge
well,
there.
yeah.
Well, there was a really good sketch that Kelly Bailey made, which basically charted surface tension, and it was pretty extensive. Like it went through the cliffside, and it went through areas where tanks were, and like a lot of soldiers.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
cliffs.
he went through the desert
Give me a
with
video
the
game all
cactuses
about
and
traversing a
helicopters and across
cliff.
the dam.
I actually
It was
really
pretty
like that
extensive.
about
When I saw that sketch, I was so
Half-Life.
motivated
What is it called? The
to
Lost
start
episode
building
or something like
So I
that.
ran ahead with a lot of
That little tech
geometry.
demo
It
they
seemed like a
did,
lot
where
of
you
it
fight the
stuck in some way
helicopter at
or
the
another,
end.
which
I
is really
love that.
I did the, the dam,
Playing
which is funny. I
that
just did
because
that
it's
the
just
other
like
day.
you're
I
ascending
did
a
about 4 or 5 hours,
gigantic
did a
cliff
dam
area,
thing,
and
did
it's
a dam.
based
I saw
on the cliff
concept of
from
cliffside. I think Harry
Black
Teeman
Mesa.
built that render of the skybox. And I just thought, holy crap, this
Ooh,
is perfect
this is
for Vertigo.
good.
Like, whatever we
This
do
is
here,
good.
we have to play on Vertigo and like, narrow little edges and places you would like to normally dodge a grenade that you can't.
This is some good looking
And
stuff,
that's the
baby.
moment. That's really the big part of that level, is that reveal.
Me and my
Play
brother
time.
were stuck in
Principle
tracks
stuff.
for many
The
days
helicopter
because
comes
we
in,
didn't
you fight the
realize you could
helicopter,
change
it's
the way it turns by shooting the signs.
First of all, I had a bunch of textures, and then every time I made new ones, whoever was working on the new levels would be like, oh, fresh textures, I'm going to use those. Somebody making another level would start using them, and I was like, no, this is chaos. We need to restrict this. So I started naming the texture sets by the level that they were made for. I was trying to enforce some sort of like visual cohesion, and so that really ended up working.
There was one level I did. It was the introduction of the.
This
sort
is
of
just
bounce
standard
pads,
practice
bounce
today.
pads in the real
This
world.
is the
And,
Office
story-wise,
texture
like, okay, you're
pack.
getting
This
closer
is
to
the
hitting Alien World. So I was
residential
like, well,
texture
let's
pack.
Get a little bit of Alien World infection.
This is
into
the
real
underground
world. So I
texture
thought it just
pack.
was a visual thing. John Guthrie made it 10 times better, and that's actually where he found the photo of my daughter, because I didn't put my daughter in.
Skybox so
I hid
bad
her
that
in,
it's
like, a
good.
destroyed office someplace, as a little Easter egg for myself, and John went and put my daughter's photo in Gordon's locker, which I think was a good decision.
Aw. That daughter is now probably in her 60s.
I still get
Crazy.
questions about stuff that I spent 5 minutes on 25 years ago from people who've now thought about this for 25 years, and they're thinking that there's 25 years worth of development went into this. And I'm like, on some level, when you start talking about lore, I'm like, well, there's Black Mesa. That was just a matter, we needed a name for something that was evocative.
In that entrance, when you get off the train, and there's that lobby where there's a big map on it, and when we were making that map, that was fairly early on, I put a dot in New Mexico, and then that turned into, I think Mark saw that, he was like, oh, where is that? This is where we are. And then he named it Black Mesa.
That is a favorite thing of mine, actually. If you come up with a name for something and it evokes something, then you don't have to write the whole story, because it's a conspiiracy plot.
This is how the
Everybody knows
best
more about
writing
it
is
than you do, so
done,
you
by
don't
the
have
way.
to
It's
do-
just
you don't have
like
to answer
last
that.
minute, some
Just
ass
raise
pull
your
was
question.
like, yeah, hey, that's fine. Let's
Like, dialogue
let's
came in
leave
later.
it.
Also, a lot of the scripted sequences came in later, and those helped to kind of sharpen the storytelling aspect of it, because, I mean, setting expectations to get up to the surface, and then like, oh no, they're not here to help us.
The whole thing about diegetic writing, right? Like keeping the exposition in the game instead of outside the game. I give a lot of credit to Mark.
After playtests, we'd realized that maybe you need more of a dialogue cue about something.
Bill
That's
Van
when we started to
Buren.
do like scientists who would literally pop up in a corner and go that way. There's a few of those that we stuck in right at the end when we go like, well, we get one more session with Hal. He can say, go down here, go around that corner.
Well, so much for the government. Their idea of containment is to kill everyone associated with the project. Judging from your hazard suit, I'd say you were part of what went wrong.
I knew Hal from San Francisco as an artist, cartoonist. He was also an animator and an actor in some science fiction movies. So when we got down to the wire,
He does have the look of a guy who's in a lot of sci-fi movies.
I finally just called him and said, Hal, I want you to.
I say it with love.
Your voice. And I got him on a speakerphone, and I had a bunch of people gathered in my office. And I'm like, okay, Hal, everybody's here. And he's like, well, what would you like me to say? And everybody was like, this is him. This is the guy.
Why do we all have to wear these ridiculous ties?
Another interesting voice thing was the G-Man. So we liked Mike Shapiro's work. So we knew we wanted to use him, but we brought him in to do Barney and also the G-Man. So we did a take on all the G-Man lines with kind of a straight voice, and I was thinking that, okay, we have something safe, but we're not super excited about it, and give us something else. And he does this crazy lizard voice.
The border world, then, is in our control for the time being, thanks to you. Quite a nasty piece of work you managed over there. I am impressed.
And we took it back, and everybody just loved the crazy lizard voice, and so
They've sort of.
Did you do the Nyland?
They've really sort of softened the lizardiness of that voice over the years, and they sort of, massaged it, brought it up to snuff. He does not sound that bad in, that crazy in Half-Life 2. He sounds more like human. I also forgot, I never played Half-Life Alyx. I need to get to that.
The Nyland. Just imagine his head floating in space as a baby.
I went into Gabe's office and I demanded Gabe to either fire Ken or I quit. And Gabe just laughed at me.
Correct response from Gabe.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Until Bill got there, I was the oldest guy there. It was hard because I had to go home in the evenings, whereas the young guys who just moved out from Florida or wherever, they did not have to go home in the evenings. I'd go home, see my kids when they were in bed. I would come back down the hill to Valve. Nobody else.
You think I should have a crazy lizard voice?
But I did.
You're wired to take full advantage of the situation. Like you're like everything.
Retrospective.
So when you say we work 18-hour days, that's military.
Oh crap! That was my pen.
I can edit all day. I can design all day. I don't have to worry about. Two guys from Microsoft start a game studio. Incredibly capable. With an incredible team, you're gonna push yourself harder than ever before.
I don't usually crunch real hard. I get it done in I come in, I work, I go home, and a lot of people were living really long hours. The classic. Well, I'll come in at 1 and then goof around for a while and then work late into the morning. Late at night. I was employee 17. There was a woman that was the kind of the office manager, and eventually.
Me okay there? I'm okay. I just dropped my pen.
At the desk. I was the only woman on the team.
Why did you spit your tea? Oh, spit your tea over your keyboard. That's really unsanitary. Don't be drinking. Don't be having food around your computer.
So she's the one in Gordon's locker, Isabel. That she's very special needs. She's 25 today. Cognitively she's about 3 years old. So after her birth, in the middle of Half-Life production, that was really hard. It was really hard.
Okay.
Because we were getting about 2 hours of sleep at a stretch because she had to be fed through a tube in her stomach every 2 hours. I had to just
okay. This took a really dark turn for a moment. Okay, so he had like a really troubling time during development because his daughter was born with serious illnesses and ailments. It's terrible, man.
Leading to the world when she was a baby. I had a hard time just talking to people because I was just kind of tired and angry all the time. Yeah, my wife, she worked at Valve for a while. She did a bunch of textures for the game. Like I say, she did those soda machines. She did just a bunch of level textures. She textured Big Mama, the sort of boss.
Big Mama, baby.
But when
she's your age,
arrived, she obviously had a lot of issues. So Yachts had to stop working and stay with her at home. And it was the last year of Half-Life, and we pretty much crunched for that whole year. So I was at work a lot. It was hard. It was definitely a hard year.
Oof. Mad props to that guy.
Games have often had this thing where they're just a little too attached to Star Wars, Blade Runner.
I'm not the person to give lectures on food, drinks, and computers. I am literally the person to do it.
Let's think of something.
I just did.
Like what Zen was initially.
Okay, so let's go back for a little bit. I like
had this thing where they're just a little too attached to Star Wars, Blade Runner, Aliens. So
yes, I completely agree with this. I think that aesthetic has really sort of coded video games maybe a bit too much. And I like when video games sort of have their own video game space aesthetic. I like it in Ratchet and Clank. I actually do kind of like it in Half-Life. Some other good ones are definitely out there, but like stuff like Halo and Destiny, it feels a bit too sort of, I don't know, Space Marines, a bit too sort of designed by concept artists to be badass, whereas this stuff just feels like the natural expression of what Zen, like an otherworldly world, might look like. And
it wasn't that hard to try to
look at that fluid animation. I really like this.
Get people to go, let's think of something really alien. Like what Zen was initially was you're going to go inside a huge alien organism,
pretty good.
Kill it or figure out how to turn it on or off or something like that. I didn't know we couldn't actually do that or what was involved.
What does it mean to have alien architecture or a planet that's biologically defining the structures in it, as opposed to what the tools were good at, which is making rectangles?
And then slowly it scaled back until it was more and more corridors, and that everybody was really good at.
People were finishing up stuff, and I was still working on Zen because it was like it went through a lot of iteration. Or
Big Mama peak enemy design.
Different people were taking swings at it, either in static concept.
A bit of a timeline crunch for it as well.
Yeah,
the fluid room with those things reminds me of Sanguine Sea in Lunacid.
And then after a lot of it was built, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna change the gravity and give you a jump pack. That came later. And I was like,
There's a lot of stuff, especially in Zen, where you're getting close to a first draft of some things, right? Because we just didn't have time, and we got to the end of the game, and so we considered not going to Zen. But the art concepts people did were so cool.
For the Zen textures, I was deeply inspired by electron microscope imagery, and we'd had so much of that regular structural texture material that I wanted to do something more organic. Insects as well. I think there's a lot of textures that were based on beetles. That was really fun and incredibly challenging levels to make because that editor was not friendly for organic shapes.
I built the little behaviors for the tree that hits you if you get too close, and the light stalk that kind of hides. But Ken did a bunch of AIs there, the floating controller guys.
And the flying guys were great, but you had to set up air nodes for them to travel properly. I prototyped a lot, and some of those prototypes were used in the final battle, I believe, and also for the Gonard, which I think Randy did.
We, at some point, have to stop polishing. At some point, here's what it is. And if the player hasn't had fun up until that point, well, then we failed. They're not going to get to that point, so who cares? It just has to finish, and it did.
Yeah, and there's always Half-Life 2 to win them back.
I love that sensation of being alone in an alien dimension. But the experience that people really liked in the game was scientists pop up and Barney pops up and you have companions and you have this feeling of companionship around you with all the other stuff that's going on. So a lot of people miss that, which I understood, and I think if we had thought about the ending from the beginning, we would have figured out some ways to do that a little more.
On November 19th, 98, Half-Life was released in video game stores around the world. To celebrate, most of the team and their families went on a vacation to Mexico. Thirsty chat strikes again.
Downtown Cabo, very drunk, and then
Typical.
running to the beach, but didn't know there was like a 6-foot retaining wall there, so I just went right over. And then I was hurting so much I slept the night where I fell. Yeah, I woke up the next morning.
I had never heard that
really
story.
Stiff neck.
Oh my god.
Man, like physical photographs.
After we got final,
This really is a game from the late 90s.
I was home one morning, taking a shower, and my wife asked me, like, it's done. Is it any good? Is the game any fun? Like, I don't know. Like, I hope so.
I don't think it's exaggerating by saying if any one of the crew had disappeared for a month, we wouldn't have shipped. It didn't matter who they were. Everybody was mission critical.
My inspiration from Valve, what I really took away with me was that the thing that is most important to me is what are we making? Coming in as a texture artist, you don't have a lot of expectation that you're going to get to influence that. And I was able to have quite a bit of influence on the what.
It was so fun to work with the people who
Yeah, imagine hiring people for a specific job and then just letting them do that job to the best of their ability. Imagine not micromanaging every second of everybody's life.
Diverse, at least, like,
Imagine having a team that's really fun and works together and everybody likes each other.
People, but also just the fact that we had hired
Crazy.
really stellar people who were
No, what
good at
we need are a
collaborating,
bunch of
like
Excel
people,
spreadsheet
people
management, and we need like 500 people in HR and a bunch of producers getting involved in this. That's how we make good games.
Good games do is
terrible.
Make 2 games worth of stuff and then throw away the bad game. And fortunately, like Valve was able to do that. A lot of companies couldn't do that, but backstopped by Gabe and Mike, Valve could afford to do that.
I always have absolutely nothing interesting to say when people say, "Would you reflect on your legacy?" Like, I really don't look back a whole lot. I'm always excited by the future, right? So to me, it's like I can look back at the things we did, but to me, they're just sort of like the stepping stones to what we're going to be able to do in the future. That's just how I'm wired, right?
Gabe seems like a really nice guy. Quesative hating that Excel comment. Quesative's going to manifest in chat to spout off at me. Some nice production values in this video. It's really sort of nice nice footage, but it's not like crazy over edited or anything. I might rewatch this and sort of revamp how I do videos to more closely align with this, because I really like what I'm looking at. The Secret Tape, directed and edited by Danny O'Dwyer. Do I know anybody here? No. Oh, who's this? Oh, this guy. Hey, Ivan the Spacebiker and Friends, now available in Half-Life Deathmatch. Oh, okay, cool. So, Gabe looks like a sage. Oh, kinda. Love the minimalist box art. I love the box art for this game. Like weird, rusty, like it looks like something out of Black Mesa. You know what I'm saying? That was the Half-Life 25th anniversary. Crazy, it's been 25 years already. What channel is this? This is Aesir Aesthetics channel. Don't be looking up these channels. This is Valve's channel. Valve official. And their YouTube is recommending I watch One Piece theories. So yeah, any final thoughts, chat? Any final thoughts, or we wanna just shut this whole operation down and go to sleep for today? If you have any more of these interesting sort of documentaries or what have yous, send them my way. We might just watch more of these, since I've exhausted all the good GDC talks. And, if more good GDC talks come, we'll watch those. But, the GDC talks that come now, it's always just like imagining the unimaginable in matte painting. And I'm like, this is nothing. Or it's like, ugh. God damn it. Um. mm, mm, mm. Yeah, so it's like from mentor to leader. It's like this isn't for me. Setting the stage, player as performer. It's like, yeah. UI in God of War Ragnarok. It's like, I don't. Creating Frostbite terrain. The art of video game parody. Founding a successful studio. Bringing Temtem to life. Tabletop's influence. It's like, this is nothing. These are not interesting ones. Matte painting in games. This actually does look interesting, but I don't know if we can talk over this. This is just interesting to watch. Creating Fortnite's quests. I never watched that. I don't know what this is. Learning from hip-hop. Like, what is this? What is this?
The hero's journey. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but this is, the hero of 1,000 faces. You start, you kind of, and the hop. And that's actually a KRS-One quote. You have the knowledge, the street knowledge, and the information, the hip, and then the movement, the hop. So naturally is, are there any games that do this?
Ugh. Okay. I did watch the Thief documentary from NoClip. Yeah, maybe. I think NoClip makes some good documentaries. When will they release Full Life? They won't. Because that was supposed to be the subtitle of Half-Life 3, Full Life. Aesir stream Jack 2. I'll stream it in 3 years. I first need to stream Ratchet Gladiator, then I'll stream Jack 1, and then I stream Jack 2. These are my Christmas streams. God of War Ragnarok GDC. Yeah, you can watch that. Yeah, I'm never gonna stream that. I just don't care enough about UI design, and I'm not a big God of War guy. I said a hip hop, a hippity hop. That's some good hip hop in chat. What about that one that came out after Silent Hill 2? I know it has been some time since then, but still. Wait, what? Was that like a NoClip documentary? Maybe. But yeah, how to become a narrative designer. The One Piece Theory Iceberg explained. Hey, why does Valve's video have more viewers than my video? Can you guys in chat explain this to me? I feel like, I'm putting myself out here and you guys are not delivering for me. I need like 126,000 of you, or like 980 to sort of even this out. I guess this was 3 hours ago and I'm still streaming, so we have time. We have time to get the numbers up. Anyways, we're getting into this chat. We're being silly now. We're getting into silly time talks. So can't deliver to Iceland. It's too far. Getting into silly talk, so it's time to put an end to this. Aesir, your hot take: every other mainstream game of the industry. I do. Maybe the every other mainstream game needs to be better. That's what I'm saying. Did I watch the Soul documentary from Don RV? They have a lot of insight on the design decisions of Miyazaki. Yeah, but so okay, this is maybe gonna sound just a tad elitist. I don't think anybody out there can really tell me anything I don't know about Miyazaki or like Silent Hill. I've done my months in the mines of reading every interview they ever had and looking at every piece of every part of their games for hours on end. So I don't particularly feel like when it's stuff like Deus Ex or Half-Life, or it's stuff like System Shock, stuff that I tentatively like. Half-Life, Deus Ex I really like, System Shock I love, but I don't know a ton about those games. So if somebody has interesting insights on those, yeah, I can watch that. But I have so many opinions about my sort of bread and butter FromSoft, Silent Hill, Fumito Ueda stuff that I don't know how much I can get out of somebody else's video on that. I don't remember all of it, I think, but it had Sato, Yamaoka, and Ito. Oh, the making of. That flex. Souls connoisseur. I'm something of a Souls carnivore. That's correct. What's Miyazaki's favorite food, Aesir? Feet. Anyways, like I said, we're getting silly. We're getting silly, chat. You're both being silly. You're acting silly in chat. I'm gonna stay up for probably another hour and a half maybe. So if you guys want to continue the conversation, Discord link should be in the description. But other than that, yeah, you know, good times by all. I'm gonna end the stream now. You know you love silly chat, really, Acer? A little bit. But we can't have too much of it, otherwise it just gets weird. See you guys on the Discord. Bye-bye.